So welcome guys to another episode of the Daily Driver, the Bon Jovi Tour Edition TDI AFN. As you saw in the last couple of videos, I concentrated on the engine, pushing about 419 Newton meters of torque, as well as almost 170 horsepower. So the 280 brakes, I've been able to warp those already. They're just not man enough for the job. The handling is not there as well, a bit of torque steer. As well as the rear suspension is really twitchy. It kind of got a real hard thump when you go over, when both rear wheels go over like a line in the road, which indicates to me, as well as the twitchiness, the rear bushes are shot on this. This is a job I really dislike, which is the rear bushes on this, especially doing it on the floor. It's not fun. So in today's video, we're going to be covering the fitting of these Powerflex black bushes onto the rear of the Bon Jovi. There's a few more items here on the bench that you can see. This is basically starting to accumulate parts for the 5/100 conversion. So I've got over here the 312 calipers and carriers of an Audi TT. I've got GTI front hubs and hub carriers with the lower ball joints, and also I've got a set of Mark III lower wishbones, which I'm going to uprate the bushes on them with TT rear ones and just polyurethane black on the front. As well as I need to source, still on the list, is an anti-roll bar, front discs and pads, and the drive shafts. The outer CVs are different, but the main thing, we're going to make the start on the suspension to improve the handling, so I can start doing some nice little drives around videos. It's gonna be these bushes. So let's crack on with this job I really dislike. So there's another thing I'm gonna add on. It only comes on the VR6 and on the 16 valve Mark III Golfs. It's basically an air diffuser that goes from the tank to the rear bumper, so you don't have this big gap and all the air gets trapped up in the rear bumper. Obviously, the 16 valve and the VR6 were cars that were capable of doing over 130 miles an hour, which is about 220. I'm sure that's why they put them on. Maybe you might have it on some lower models in some countries. You know if your car had it or not due to this fixing here, which is unique to the car that had it. It's basically, there's 3 petrol straps that go on the petrol tank, and the middle one has like a little stud coming out of it, which is obviously where you put the nut to hold this in place. On this side, the little stud is there, standard on the car, but this one is not. So if you do have a petrol strap that has a little stud sticking out of it, this is what it's for, it's to hold this. So at one point it might have had this fitted onto the car. So as well as doing those rear bushes, I'm going to fit this as well this afternoon. So I've released the caliper and the handbrake cable, and obviously this little bracket as well, and the brake lines. So now I can just focus on removing the rest of the brake cable clips. and then removing the other brake line around the back there. Wow, can you see that bush? How badly cracked it is. I also removed the handbrake cables on both sides and also released the brake line from these two brake line clips. So as you guys can see, removed all the brake lines and the brake bias valve, and what I've done is it's just hanging, it's swinging on the rear shocks. So it's pretty simple to do. So now what I'll do is I'll put a jack in the middle and just remove those shock bolts. So just to show you guys a bit clearer of what I did, obviously remove this, the low shock. Also remove these two Allen key bolts that hold the brake compensator on, and you can just move it to the side. You don't worry about moving the brake lines. They're not rusty, so it's okay. You unclip on both sides the brake line that actually goes onto the rear beam. So after much blood, sweat and tears, I've got it off. I'm only joking, it was hard work, but it wasn't actually, there was no blood involved. It wasn't that bad. Luckily, nothing seized. The brake compensator bolts came off quite easily. It was all quite easy, but these bushes, as you can see, are absolutely, totally shot. That's why I could feel the car really unstable on the rear. Now, we're just gonna hammer these off, or drill these off, or try a few processes to get them off. They can be a right pain. So you guys are probably wondering, how do you end up taking this out without a press? So what I tend to do is get a big drill bit, and I drill. Sometimes they just literally pop off. They're so bad that they just literally give them a few hammers and they come straight off. This one was badly dry and cracked, but all I did was drilled a few holes in it to break the rubber up and hammered it off. Once that is done, get a big chisel, a nice hammer, and that you just kind of hammer it, the lip that's sticking out, hammer it down and kind of inwards to make this kind of flower shape, which then lets you, with a hammer, hit one hammer on the other hammer, and you can, as you can see, it starts to work itself out. And just make sure you wear safety goggles when you're doing this. Can be a bit of a pain, but that's the only way you can take it off without a press. So let's press on now and get the other one off. So yep, there you go, I've just mounted it up, and as you can see it fits nice and snug and gives it a nice contoured shape. The only difference is, like I was saying, on this petrol strap, all I did was drilled it and put a soft tapper through, but on the original car it actually has a stud coming out of this petrol strap. So we've almost come to the end of another episode. Ooh, sweat, that's what that was, sweat to do this job. It's not a pretty job, like I've said at the beginning of the video. It's a job I really dislike doing, but it's done and it needed it badly. And I'm really looking forward now. It's about 2 o'clock, got the rest of the afternoon free, take this down some really nice roads and evaluate the improvements that this has done. So this concludes another video. Subscribe, support the channel, ding-a-ling-a-ling, click on the notifications bell,